Hello, welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Spencer Limbach at Spencer_JL. And we're talking about tonight. You can call it Kershaw Day. Vegas thinks it's Kershaw Day. Minus 380 favorite against Philly tonight. So, as always, he's your most expensive pitcher, $12,500. And he's been very good, but he hasn't been, I won't say worth his, well, he hasn't been worth his salary, to be honest. I mean, if you look at his numbers on paper, they look very, very good. But for $12,500, it's been 6 starts ago since he actually had a game that was really worth that price tag. The game against St. Louis, 8 innings, 1 hit, 11 Ks. So tonight, obviously, monster favorite against Philly. One of the biggest favorites you'll ever see. Low total here, 6.5 runs. So is Kershaw the guy you pay for in cash games tonight? Because it comes back to that again. You know that he's the best pitcher, but is he going to pay off his tag?
You know, the question when it comes to Kershaw, anytime he's playing, is what you can do with the positional hitters around him. I think you can make a solid team around him. You're obviously not going to get the guys you really want, like Pujols or Trout, but you can kind of make a secondary Angels stack if you want exposure to that Colorado-Los Angeles game. And then just kind of, do some okay plays here and there. I think that makes for a solid cash game lineup, but for tournaments, you're obviously fading him. You're digging down a little bit deeper in the pitcher category, and then trying to build some of those really nice bats. There's a lot of great hitters in nice positions today. That's definitely the preferred tournament strategy, but I mean, as we look down this list at starting pitcher, I don't see anyone that's really inspires a lot of confidence for cash games. So you're going to have to accept some risk if you pivot away from Kershaw. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, he's got a great high floor, but he's also, I don't know. He's definitely the best pitcher on the board. Chris Archer's the guy that I would love to play instead, but he gets a matchup against Kansas City who doesn't strike out very much. $10,600. I think he's a fine, safe option because you expect that Jeremy Guthrie, being on the other side, he'll get plenty of run support. But this has also been a Rays offense you really can't rely on. So, with that being said, I think he's probably more of a tournament option, but a tournament option with a big upside. A couple other interesting options. Michael Wacha against the Cubs, $8,600. Hasn't been great, but he's been consistently, 6+ innings, 5 to 8 strikeouts most games. Had a good start in Coors Field even. So I think if you're going to pay down a little bit, I think he's option one. And then your other option for cash games got to be Charlie Morton, who had one really bad start a couple games ago against Washington. But other than that, he's been consistent. He's not a guy that's ever going to get you 20 fantasy points. But if he gets you 10 to 15, that's about what you're looking for at that price range.
Yeah, I think Charlie Morton probably has the best matchup of anyone in that price range. He's at home. Pittsburgh is pretty much a pitcher-friendly park. So I think if you're dipping down and want to build some tournament stacks, he's might be the way to go. I want to get your take real quick on Andrew Hutchinson against the White Sox. We know the White Sox pretty bad offense aside from Jose Abreu, maybe Adam Eaton, and Adam LaRoche, depending how he's feeling that day. But last time Hutchinson, granted it was a couple months ago, played the White Sox, he went 9 innings with 8 strikeouts. He does a lot better at home for some reason, which doesn't make much sense because the Rogers Center is a hitter-friendly park. But he's on the road at the White Sox today as a pretty decent favorite against John Danks. Do you like Hutchinson at all for 8.3K?
Yeah, I love him in GBPs. There's no way I'd play him in cash games just because
Right.
he's so inconsistent. But he's that one player that every time he's playing, I don't care who he's playing, I play him in GBPs because he does have that big upside. But, I mean, as we've seen, was it 4 starts in his last 10 where he has 5 or less fantasy points? So, when he gets hit hard. But he's got good stuff. So I think he's got, especially price considered, what is he, $7,700? Oh, $8,300. But, so, he's got great upside for his price tag, but I think I'd slightly prefer Trevor Bauer at that price, just because I think that.
Strikeout upside.
Yeah, he's got higher strikeout upside for sure. He's definitely not any more consistent than Drew Hutchison is, but he's got that 22.9% strikeout rate, and we know you don't even need to be a big strikeout pitcher to have big upside against Houston. Only concern with Bauer though is walks, and we know the power that Houston has. So if Bauer gives up a couple walks, make one mistake over the plate, I mean, most of this lineup can take him deep. So both guys pretty risky, but I mean, I think that they're both in their own right, like nice GPP plays. Might even be one of those scenarios where you make a team you really like. If one of those guys fits, maybe play the same team, each with one guy.
Yeah, it's a good call.
But I don't like a whole lot of other guys. Anybody else that really stands out to you?
There's one more guy, and the only reason I bring him up is because we're in separate rooms right now, and you're not around to punch me. Jeremy Guthrie is 5.7K. He's playing at home in that huge ballpark against the Tampa offense that really hasn't been doing much as of late. We know he struggles against left-handed bats, but who does this Tampa offense really have? David DeJesus, Kevin Kiermaier. That's all you're really afraid of from the left-handed side of the plate. So you have Guthrie. Maybe he can scrape together 7 innings, get you 4 or 5 strikeouts and a win. I don't know. Some of that's probabilities reduced by facing Chris Archer, but I don't know. At the same time, 5.7K. If you really want to build a mega stack around that, maybe he can grind out solid value.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to go cheap, then I don't think he's a bad option because you mentioned his bad splits against lefties, but he's actually really good against righties. 279 WOBA allowed. So normally when you get a guy who's got extreme splits like that, you want to target him with power bats, and like you said, there really aren't any power bats you worry about in that lineup. So if you can keep the ball in the park and get past those few guys you worry about. Obviously, Evan Longoria, best hitter, and he's a righty, so I think you could do much worse. In 5,700, like you said, even if you get 8 fantasy points out of him and get a bunch of production out of your lineup, stack some Coors bats with it, then I think that's a solid way to go. Catcher options now. Yasmani Grandal, by the way, in case you didn't know, is much better on the opposite side of the plate. Not so good against lefties. So
right. That's good.
He's been the sexy pick recently. If you want to go that way, you go right ahead. Not a guy that I'm rushing out to play in my lineups tonight. A guy that I am rushing out to play is Russell Martin at 3,300. Hasn't been great recently, but crushes lefties. I think he's probably my favorite play. I was baffled to not see Michael McHenry in the lineup against a lefty yesterday, but Walt Weiss apparently has never heard of, I don't know, any statistic ever. I don't know. Words can't describe Walt Weiss to me. But
Walt Weiss doesn't care about your WOBA splits.
Yeah, Walt Weiss doesn't care about winning either, apparently. Michael McHenry, 2,700, assuming he's in the lineup, it's either going to be him or Chris Iannetta for me in most spots because Iannetta crushes lefties. Hit a homer last night. He's actually been hitting pretty well. You'll hit his lineup spot, but I want some cheap Coors exposure.
Oh, yeah, I love Iannetta. He's been heating up along with the Angels offense, and he excels in nice ballparks. We saw him do it earlier this season in Boston. He had a great series, and now Texas and Colorado back-to-back, both very hitter-friendly parks. He's only 2.7K, so you can get a nice value, play some decent exposure to the Angels. I really like him. And then, as you said, Russell Martin is also on my list. And one more kind of sneaky pick that'll fall between those two is Wellington Castillo. He's been pretty solid as of late, and he has a nice righty-lefty matchup in Texas. So I think he's a tournament pick that'll slip through the cracks there for about the same price as Iannetta. And if Iannetta doesn't do anything, Castillo might be there, as a low percentage owned play for GPPs.
Yeah, like I said, nice high total there, 9 runs too. So definitely going to be looking that way as well. Yan Gomes, the guy you can consider. He's 2.4. I like him more against a lefty, but if he's in the lineup, and he's still a decent hitter at that price, so don't mind that. And then I'll throw out Dioner Navarro also. Seems to always come through in these really cheap situations when I decide to pay up. So $2,300, I don't think he's a bad tournament option either.
He hasn't been playing lately. I don't know what's up with that. The last game he's played was July 3rd. So I'm not sure if he's. It doesn't say he has an injury, but I mean just double check the lineup. If he's in, I think that's a solid pick for the price. But I don't know. I don't know if they're holding him out intentionally or not. So just double check that.
Yeah, definitely make sure he's in the lineup first. First base options: Albert Pujols. I don't know if you saw the home run prop last night, but he was plus 215 to homer.
Insane.
So he only got one hit, and it was a homer in his first at bat, 3-run shot.
3-run.
So, I mean, he's obviously got to be your top option once again tonight. Get the lefty in Coors Field, $4,800. Going to be tough to fit in there with Kershaw, but obviously if you want a bunch of course exposure, you're not getting Kershaw anyway in that lineup. So got to love him. Of course, Edwin Encarnacion gets John Danks, who pretended to be really good in his last start. We know that he isn't. $4,400 for him. I think those are probably my top two options if I'm paying up.
Yeah, Encarnacion is the tournament pivot off of Pujols there. He'll have definitely a low ownership percentage, but similar upside. I'm not going to say the same upside because Pujols is just, I mean, he's having a career season, as weird as that is saying, in the home run department. Otherwise, if you want someone a little bit cheaper, David Ortiz at home versus Kohler, 3.2K, don't really mind that. Otherwise, looking down the list a little further, CJ Cron, assuming he's in the lineup, has that righty-lefty matchup against Rusin of Colorado in Coors Field. He's 3K. Otherwise, Ben Paulson, 2.9K, another Coors bat from the Colorado side, going against Schumacher. And some people think Schumacher's a good pitcher, and he is some of the time, but he also has fly ball tendencies that can really spell some trouble, especially against power hitters, power lefties of Colorado, and Paulson is a cheap way to get exposure to that.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw out Pedro Alvarez as well for tournaments. He's $2,900. Andrew Kastner has been terrible against lefties this year, 392 WOBA allowed, so lefty bat against a guy with splits like that, especially with power, I'm going to definitely be looking his way a little bit as well.
Yep.
Second base options, going to be another interesting night here. Howie Kendrick's the guy that hits lefties pretty well, so 3,300. If you're going to be playing Dodgers, he's one of the few I'm really considering there. No more going to Cesar Hernandez right now, even though he continues to get on, but not against Kershaw, not at that price especially. But then another guy you're really going to be looking at actually hits lefties pretty well, Johnny Giavotella, $2,900. I mean, he was a popular cash game play last night. I can't imagine anything will be different tonight, assuming that the weather holds up. So those are going to be my main targets up here.
Yeah, I think it's Giovatello's the chalk, and for good reason. I think he's who you want for cash games, especially, and probably for majority of tournament picks too. Just click him in. He's the best priced option, one of the better overall second basemen of the day. I would say just click him in and move along and, go against the grain somewhere else, because I'm not really seeing anyone else I'm falling in love with. Maybe DJ LeMahieu, but 3.3K, like you said, that's a little more expensive than you want for a guy who just doesn't have the power, doesn't have the upside. Like you saw last night, he went 3 for 4 and scored 2.75 fantasy points. That's a standard line for him. I mean, he did well by his own standards, 3 for 4, but just not the fantasy production you really want. So I think it's Giovatello, and then moving on to third base.
Yeah, I'll throw out one more guy though, Ben Zobrist, because CC Sabathia, horrible. I mean, he's just horrible. And that's about it. I'm with you, Johnny Giavotella, the guy you're going to play more often than not. Third base, Josh Donaldson gets a lefty. Once again, like we said, pretended to be good in his last start. Not a guy I'm buying, not ever. $4,900 his price took a big jump after another homer last night, but you're going to need yourself some exposure to him tonight. Chris Bryant's another guy whose price dropped just a little bit. Gets Michael Wacha tonight, righty-righty. You don't love the matchup, but you like the price for tournaments at $3,400. And then interesting cash game option again, Matt Carpenter, still really cheap, $3,100. Jason Hamill's been a good pitcher this year, so he's not a guy I'm going on my way to pick on. Only a 283 WOBA allowed to lefties, but we know he's a solid guy. But I know there's another guy, same price, actually ex-Cardinal, I know you really like. So who's the guy you're looking at there?
I'm surprised you left him for me, because he's your favorite player, right?
I do like him a lot tonight. I mean, in general,
but I mean, like, just as a person and as a baseball player, you really respect his game. You respect the former team that he played for in his championship run that one year. I know that, so I'm surprised you left him to me. But it's David Freese going in that righty-lefty matchup. We know he has nice splits against lefties per his career. Hasn't really been that good this season, but he's starting to come around along with that Angels offense in the past 2 series. So 3.1K, very nice price point there. I think he's a cash game lock pretty much. He's a cheap way to get exposure to this game. The Angels will be the highest projected scoring team once again. So for me, it's David Freese in majority of my cash games.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Danny Valencia, another guy throw out for tournaments, $2,800. Hits lefties really well, as you know. And One other
Yeah.
guy, if you wanted a cheap guy, you get Chase Headley if he's batting second at 26. But like we said, not much difference in paying up for these other guys here. They're just in way better spots. So get yourself the guys where you can.
Yep.
Shortstop is Troy Tulowitzki once again. Kind of a disappointment last night, but maybe that'll keep his ownership levels lower tonight. Matt Shoemaker on the mound tonight. On the opposite side, it's a righty, not a lefty. But I'm not too concerned about that because what I am looking at here is a fly ball rate of 42.6%. Not going to play well in Coors Field despite the wind blowing in just a little bit. So Tulo's got to be your top option. Carlos Correa was a guy that struggled last night, rightfully so, against Corey Kluber. But great option tonight, I think, against Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer, as we know, inconsistent at times, gives up a lot of hard contact. And Carlos Correa hits the ball harder than anyone else in the game right now. So you got to like him.
And he steals bases too, so
yeah,
that's an added bonus. Another guy I really like, going back to the Angels, Eric Ibar. Really disappointed last night, going over 4, was seemingly the only Angel that didn't get in on that score fest. So he bit some people there, but I think it'd be a mistake to fade him tonight. Fade him completely, that is, just because of that. So he's a switch hitter, usually batting around 5th. So decent RBI potential there. And he's 3.2K, as we said. There's another cheap way to get exposure to this game. So if you can't quite pay up for Tulo or Correa, I think he's the next best option.
Yeah, I'm with you there. There's not a lot of cheap options that you really love here. Normal guys that you'd be looking at, like Jimmy Rollins, he gets a lefty tonight. I don't want to play him, and he's got a terrible lineup spot. Jung Ho Kang gets Andrew Kashner. When Andrew Kashner's not good, I mean, he's beatable, so I like him in tournaments at 2,300 if you got to have a cheap option. Then one more guy, probably going to be batting ninth. You hate that, but Marcus Semien, 2,200 men's salary. Hits lefties well, and Sabathia's terrible.
It's a nice call.
All right, outfield. Mike Trout in Coors Field once again, $5,600. All he did last night was hit a 3-run homer, score a couple runs, 10.5 fantasy points. Pretty much what we expected out of Mike Trout, and he did not disappoint. So if you can afford him, you certainly want him in your lineups tonight. Bautista against a lefty, another guy there you're looking at. Bryce Harper had a really tough matchup last night against Johnny Cueto, but tonight, not so much. Gets Michael Lorenzen, who, I mean, he's literally maybe half the pitcher that Johnny Cueto is, and he hasn't been particularly good against lefties, and by that I mean he's been terrible. 413 WOBA allowed. Bryce Harper, if you're not paying for Trout, is a nice swerve in tournaments tonight.
Yeah, I think those 3 are obviously tier 1, and that's not a particularly bold statement because they're all priced 1, 2, and 3 in the outfield. But yeah, Trout is the guy you want exposure to. I know he's going to have a higher ownership percentage, but maybe with people taking Kershaw, that kind of suppresses it a little bit. So you always have to consider that. Otherwise, if you're looking for more affordable options, Yasiel Puig in a righty-lefty matchup kind of intrigues me for 3.3K. I know he's been just, I'd say, middling as of late. Hasn't really had some high fantasy outputs, but definitely a nice landing spot for him tonight against Morgan, the lefty from Philadelphia. Chris Colabello is another guy I really like tonight, 3.1K. He's been hot all season. He's been a consistent hitter. Now he's starting to hit home runs. 2 in the past 3 games, and he gets John Danks tonight in U.S. Cellular Field, which helps righty power quite a bit. He's only 3.1K, so I think you can utilize him in all formats. Otherwise, some cheap bargain picks if you're trying to get Kershaw in. I like David DeJesus. As we said, Guthrie, he might fare decent against this Tampa lineup tonight, but DeJesus has some power that he could take advantage of. And I don't know, he's been solid the past 2-3 games. Before that, he was a little bit cold, but he's minimum salary, likely batting cleanup for Tampa against a guy with really bad splits against lefties, so I don't really mind that. Otherwise, another minimum salary guy that could be batting cleanup is David Murphy. Pay attention to the lineup there. He gets Dan Straley, who is a spot starter by most means. So those 2 guys are who I'm looking to at minimum salary if you're trying to get Kershaw in.
Yep, I got one more men's salary guy for you, Gregory Polanco.
I knew it. Knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a great hitter, but Cashner's bad against lefties, and I mean, if he gets on, he can steal bases. So
especially if he's batting leadoff again.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, he'll
which
get opportunities.
I don't know if he's going to hold that position because he hasn't really done much with it. But we'll see if they give him another shot tonight. And yeah, he's worth considering for minimum salary also.
I'll throw out one more guy here for tournaments. Mitch Moreland gets Jeremy Hellickson, his 371 WOBA allowed against lefties in Arizona. So
what's the price?
3,100. So not bad for.
Yeah, I like that
I'm
too.
sorry, it's not in Arizona. It's in Texas, but it is
same thing.
Rental. Yeah, not much difference there either way.
Yeah, for park factor.
All right. Well, with that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And check out our Optimizer, Colossus, and all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.
Cheat sheets.
And cheat sheets. Check out the cheat sheets, too.